In tonight's edition, we compare the benefits and the drawbacks of completing construction trade courses compared to studying secondary teaching. Both of these occupations are excellent pathways to PR and are being used by many after they complete their higher education degrees whilst they are holding their Graduate 485 visas. Also, the risk of obtaining a second citizenship. Yes, Australian law allows it, but will it jeopardise your Australian citizenship? Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to this week's edition of Australian Immigration News. This program is proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services, the company I founded now more than 27 years ago, right here in the heart of Sydney. The ABC covered an interesting topic about the increase in Australian citizens seeking Irish citizenship based upon family heritage. However, this brings up an important issue of the possibility of losing your Australian citizenship, currently limited to extreme circumstances. Professor Kim Rubenstein from the Australian National University explained what the risk could be.
But as soon as you formally become a citizen of another country, it technically gives the government the capacity to determine to strip you of your citizenship in contexts where we've seen already in Australia under the Citizenship Act, the deprivation of citizenship, at the moment linked to terrorism offences and aspects that are seen as inconsistent with Australian values.
One has to wonder though, while the circumstances are very limited, who knows what the government may bring in to lower the threshold at any time in the future. And just a quick plug for next week's news edition. Today we received a response to our comprehensive and quite expensive FOI request for the number of applicants awaiting visa approval. It covers the skilled visas, the employer-sponsored visa, partner visas and parent visas. The breakdown of the visa classes for all the 424,961 applicants waiting for approval will be a bombshell edition. Today we're addressing a question that so many prospective migrants have. Is pursuing a trade course or a teaching qualification a viable path to obtaining permanent residency in Australia? I speak to many international students who have completed their bachelor or master's degree in Australia only to find that the occupation they can obtain a skill assessment for has little chance in being invited for PR or even the regional sponsored TR. Finding employment is hard enough and getting sponsored is even more difficult. Many people are lucky to find the right combination, but in reality, most are not. Even if you're lucky, you still face the incredible processing delay in most occupations, and you have to pray that your position remains open while you wait. So it's not surprising that demand to study something different and create a new occupation for themselves and have a good chance of getting PR is on the rise. This brings us to two of the most popular pathways currently, teaching and construction trades. Let's first talk about trade courses. If you're considering completing a trade course, particularly in construction, due to the high demand, you'll need to obtain a Certificate 3 qualification. This is the minimum educational requirement for trades in Australia. The skill assessment for trades is conducted through Trade Recognition Australia through the Job Ready program. Importantly, the Australian qualification must be a CRICOS registered course, though you don't necessarily need a student visa to study these qualifications. Many Certificate 3 courses are registered for 52 weeks or longer, but at the end of the day, all you need is that Certificate 3. It does not pay you to study for a longer duration than is necessary. Once you have completed the qualification, you can register with TRA to enter the Job Ready program, which requires at least 12 months full-time work experience to complete. Realistically, finishing a 52-week course will generally take about 12 months, followed by finding a full-time job for the Job Ready program to obtain your skill assessment. This whole process, though, could easily take about 2 years. So let's take a quick look at the benefits and drawbacks of pursuing a trade course. Trade courses are relatively inexpensive compared to university studies, typically ranging from $17,000 to $30,000 for a 1-year program. The Certificate 3 can be completed fairly quickly, and many students manage to do these courses simultaneously while also pursuing a higher education degree. There is no English requirement to gain the trade assessment. A lower pass mark is currently needed for most construction trades, many at 65 points. You can check out the latest Skill Select invitation rounds to find out for yourselves. If you complete a one-year trade course, you may be eligible for the Occupational Trainee 407 visa if you need more time to gain that skill assessment. If you don't find employment in your skilled occupation, all the time and effort spent studying may feel very wasted. Even if you secure a job, you'll need to complete 12 months of that work experience to qualify for the skill assessment. In total, including the study period, obtaining your skill assessment can take nearly 2 years, so it's essential to plan accordingly, particularly since most people will complete the study and the work experience on a Graduate 485 visa, and time may run short. Tradies often work in tough, harsh environments, so you need to be the type of person who can cope with that. Since trade courses are a lower entry level, they may become too popular too soon, thus oversupplies and a push-up of the invitation points. Now don't choose a dodgy course that you hardly go to, for that trade school may have its registration cancelled, and just recently another suffered the same fate. Now let's move on to those who may consider teaching. Many applicants looking for trade occupations may already hold a bachelor or higher qualification, which is a prerequisite for entering a teaching qualification, such as the Graduate Diploma or Master's degrees. The Graduate Diplomas of Secondary Teaching can give you a fast-track method to an occupation in very high demand. I would normally not recommend the Graduate Diploma of Early Childhood Teaching these days, for it's oversubscribed due to its lower English requirement for the skill assessment as an early childhood teacher. Secondary teaching has a higher English level requirement, so the number of international students choosing this pathway is much less. I'll leave a link in the description for the skill assessment process. Choosing secondary teachers offers many benefits though. No work experience is necessary to obtain the skill assessment. Once you've completed the Australian qualification, you can apply for the assessment immediately. If you qualify for the Graduate Diploma of Secondary Teaching, it's just a one-year full-time course. A lower pass mark of just 75 points was good enough to get an invitation in the last 189 visa rounds. Teaching is a priority occupation for visa processing under Ministerial Direction 105, meaning it is faster to get your application finalized. It is easy to complete this program while on the 485 visa and even have your EOI up on the system much faster than a trade course alternative, or in fact any other type of master's degree. The major downside is the cost. The Graduate Diploma can cost at least $30,000 to $40,000, while a master's degree in education can easily exceed $70,000. If you don't meet the 4 years of higher education study in Australia, you'll need to achieve the required IELTS scores, which can be challenging for many applicants. Completing just the Graduate Diploma is enough for skill assessment process, but may not be enough for certain states to be able to register and teach as a secondary school teacher in their state. Now, this issue of skill assessment and the ability to register and work as a teacher are two very different things. For most people, the one-year Graduate Diploma is sufficient for the skill assessment. However, states have their own requirements for registration to work as a secondary teacher. In Western Australia, you can now register to teach with just the Graduate Diploma, but unfortunately not so in some other states. Due to the shortage of teachers nationwide, however, there is a push to have the Graduate Diploma be accepted for registration in all states and territories of Australia. But overall, registration does not really matter because there's no work experience required to obtain the skill assessment and be selected for the 189 invitations. Overall, I suggest choosing the Graduate Diploma of Secondary Teaching over the construction trades options. However, that depends on individual circumstances. If any of our viewers have any additional positives or negatives to share, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. And speaking of comments, here's one from Christina. Great content as always, Karl. I just applied for the 186 TRT and I've been following your channel since I was on a student visa. Your videos have helped me a lot. Oh, Christina, that's very nice to hear, and thanks for the positive feedback. And she goes on to ask, could you please clarify whether the bridging visa A between the 482 and the 186 TRT comes with no work restrictions if the visa says no conditions? Can we legally have a second job, for example doing deliveries as an ABN contractor while continuing to work for our sponsoring employer? Does the bridging visa carry the 482 restrictions? I'd really appreciate any guidance you can provide, as the cost of living is so high in Australia these days. Christina, you'll be pleased to hear that the BVA comes with no conditions usually. Then that is exactly what it means. You can do as you wish. However, you need to be very careful about how much time you are spending in that second job to make sure that the Immigration Department does not get too suspicious about the genuine position of your sponsored employment. Well, that's all for another fascinating look into the world of Australian immigration. Remember, if you need help, we are always here to lend a hand. You can book a consultation online, but if you're in a hurry, just pick up the phone. As always, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.